Bart, who is in the room, that invited me, so thank you for being here. A few weeks ago, Bart called me and he said, look, you write a lot on LinkedIn on the power of TV, and you're working now for egta. For those who don't know, egta is the international trade body representing what I call the money makers of the sell side. So think DPG, Ads and Data, Paramount, Comcast, TF1, and so forth. And I said, yes, I want to talk. But it won't be with average viewing time, weekly reach, benchmarking, giving studies that prove the effectiveness of TV, because this summer, I know what you did. Often, summers are a bit quiet, unless this year. And I think maybe this is more like a tipping point, and my presentation will be about how we can do and think differently. Let's have a look at the broadcaster side. For the first time, we see an acceleration of partnerships between global streamers and local broadcasters. Among the M&As, we have a lot of them that are driven by a common local region or a common language, like in the US, in Germany, African regions, and look at Warner Bros. So Warner Bros. Is about to launch the attire of HBO Max in Germany, and they're very smart because they think, I will increase the odds on impact if I work together with a local sales house, El Cartel Media. So it's the local that drives decisions. Other partnerships, TV inventory is now available for sale in the plane and in the car. And have a look at Disney and Webtoon. Webtoon is an app that gives access to microdramas, and they are using a freemium model. So you watch the first 5 episodes for free, you're hooked, and then you need to pay. If Disney experiments with that, it means that it will probably change the way that we shape viewing behavior of consumers and the way we monetize content. How does it look at the agency side? A lot of movements as well. And I will pick a few of them that are very much oriented around data. IPG and Publicis, they say, we centralize data. Give me your data, I will make something out of it. WPP says, no, I don't need your data. Keep it where it is. That's much more efficient. I just make the connection. So where is this interest in data coming from? Have a look at this chart. So the number of sites that have a drop in traffic is huge. And we used to work on search, and campaign optimization meant search engine optimization. And as a brand, you want to be visible and recognizable. But over time, I think that we confuse the overload and intrusiveness with visibility. And so consumers are really fed up. And probably part of the success of AI is because it removes this frustration. Consumers are now much more in the lead. They prompt. As a brand, you want to be part of the answer of that prompt. So you need to know how you have to fuel these AI models. And so agencies want to have a play in that. And don't get me wrong, if you ask Gen Z people how do they deal with information overload, they are aware that this overload won't disappear. It's just that they become the managers of their attention. So what they do, they decide when they want to be exposed, when they want to scroll endlessly, but it's on their decision. And so as a brand, and even as an agency, but also as a broadcaster, it's important that you understand how your content travels. And that's why we need to look at ad tech. What is ad tech? It's supposed to deliver ads. Therefore, they collect information, process it, use it. They use profiles for targeting, outcomes for optimization. And you could say there are 2 main frameworks in the ad tech, which is walled gardens. They say, I want to measure as precise as possible. It's a closed system, so it's not complete. And it's not transparent at all. The open system, like players like the Trade Desk, they say no, it's open, it's transparent, and it's complete. The only drawback is that it's a bit more complicated because you have a lot of blind spots you have to cover up with. Have a look at what Amazon's DSP and their partnerships are doing. So they used to partner a lot with what we call the low-end publishers. Now they partner with premium publishers. And they will create a single sign-on that enables them to track audiences cross-platform. And by doing so, they will have a view of the full consumer journey. So it's clear that both agencies as EdTech, they want to create a quality layer around data. And they do so by measurement. Talking about measurement, I've been in the business, so let me talk a little bit about it. I always use this slide to explain to people what is the measurement system we know. So these bakeries are the broadcasters. As an advertiser, you're the restaurant owner, and you contact your middleman. You want to buy bread. You want to know which quality, which inventory each bakery has. And so the middleman uses a system that he can compare like for like. And that works great. You have one system, one currency, it's independent. The problem is that these bakeries are not alone. You have these kind of platforms. You can buy bread using their digital platform. And the difference is that this platform does not only make and sell bread, but it measures all activity. So we have different measurement systems, different currencies, where you can base your bill on. So what does this mean? Are we in a good shape? Is the industry healthy? Have a look at this slide. What you see is that there's more money that is drifting towards media that require less attention. And we know that this is less effective. So there's more money spent, and the ad campaigns are less effective. The European Commission published a report saying that our industry will represent 127 billion euros, of which 53 is covered by the local broadcasters. And that was 75 a few years ago. So I think it's clear that we are moving towards what we call a global system. And before I entered the media world, I was working for different clients. One of my clients was an African print producer. So I visited African countries, understanding the meaning of clothing and what drives their decision to buy a brand. I did this for peanut butter, I did this for beer, and what you see is that the drivers for people to consume something are always the same. The product changes, but the consumption and your driver doesn't. So we can use this. Have a look. I have a birthday, or I organize a wedding, or there is a funeral to organize. What they do is they decide which prints they are all going to wear. They all go to the shop, they cut it in a shape that fits the body, and they go to that event. And the reason why they're doing it is not because they don't have a known taste. It's because they want to be part of a group. They want to belong to something. They want to create something together. For them, the driver is social indulgence, engaging with one another. This is a typical picture of a barbecue in our country. Each of us having their own style, making sure that you look a little bit different than the other. For us, the recognition comes from that person made it in life. That is a very different and unique person. So it's much more individual, much more about being distinctive. What does this mean for video? What do these people do? They sit together. They want to engage. They want to be part of something. They want to create a community with people that have the same interests. They want to belong to something bigger. And so the broadcasters that do that year after year, they become their anchor points of trust. So it's all about belonging. Over time, other technology came and we could watch on demand. Great. And that is typical an individual experience. You want to look something up, you want to search. It's much more transactional, reactive. So both systems will remain. YouTube is not going to disappear. Amazon's DSP is not going to disappear. The brand name may change, the company may change, but the fact that we have these different kinds of viewing behavior, that won't disappear. So the question is, what role can we play? First of all, know your USP. I take back that potential blueprint of Amazon's DSP. So at your left, low-end publishers, brands that are oriented to performance, activation, and the brand building part is at the right. It creates a lot of opportunities in terms of data connection, but there is a risk. Imagine that all content is created to feed that loop. Then content becomes a commodity. And that's exactly what makes broadcasters different. I call it the TV loop of premiumness. As a broadcaster, we invest in high quality content. If you ask people what makes a viewing experience premium, it's content and platform. So a piece of premium video on YouTube is less premium than if it's broadcasted. And it's that premium viewing experience that engages people. People are more alert, attentive. If you then show a curated ad load, they will perceive it as something that is really very much a fair deal. In return for a good viewing experience, you get some ads. I'm fine. And it's that combination of premiumness that is engaging and that even evokes feelings of fairness that really increases the ad impact. And what's the beauty about broadcasters is that they use the ad revenues to invest in content. This is completely different than what we see with other players. Streamers have subscription revenues, ad tech have ad tech fees. It's that tight connection of content and ads that makes it so powerful. And our industry has regulated that. There are rules, you need to comply, there are conditions. That is key to keep that premium inventory premium. And when I was working for DPG a few years ago, on-demand was on the rise. And I still remember some of my colleagues saying, life is dead. And I said, no, it will never disappear. Because as a human, watching something your neighbor, your aunt, and your friend is watching is of a key value. You invest something that you can talk about afterwards. So it's much more than just the consumption of time watching that program. It's all the things that come after. You are bonding socially. So that won't disappear. And have a look at what streamers did over time. They copied each of these elements of broadcasters. They started with an attire, they started bundling content, they started with a linear-like TV schedule, they are now investing in live, they really understand very well what is happening. There is a reason why they don't publish average revenue per user anymore. There is a reason why they say our focus is on user engagement, because they need to build this daily appointment viewing. And that is what we did with our programming. We know very well how to build up an evening. What we still also have is this local expertise. We know the habits of the people in our country. We know what they like. And it's that local element that Erwin was talking about that is of key value. Maybe if you go on holiday and you are talking about the restaurant in your neighborhood, sometimes you may find it very hard to remember the name of the street of that restaurant. And that is because our brain uses local cues to process information, to remember and to retrieve it. So the more your offer is embedded in local cues, using local symbols that are part of your culture, the higher the odds on impact. So that is your USP. Secondly, keep it simple. How many times do we see slides like this? Complicated charts, sources written small because there are so many sources, 35 notifications, how to interpret the metric. The research behind, I'm a researcher, so I won't say that research is a bad thing. The research may be complicated and nuanced, but your message must be very simple. Mind the messenger. So many times we hear a story about these guys. It's corporate, it's rational, it's all under control. Imagine people like these, witnessing the power of TV, people with some street credibility. I think this is much more powerful. Another one, and this is a very tough one. Collaborate. There was a time that we came together and that we did things that supported the industry, not our own agenda. And maybe the fact that these global players are very much playing a solo play made that we lost a little bit this feeling of collaboration. But you all know the story of Babel and the Tower. From the moment we all start to speak a different language, we can't build anymore. So my question to you guys is more, how much more urgency is needed before you start to speak a common language? And then finally, be proud. Now you will say, but we are Belgians. We are not proud. We don't brag about things. In a way, yes. You avoid risks. And I use this framework to understand cultures. I studied a lot of different markets. And so there is a framework of Hofstede. And he ranks the different countries. For Belgium, it looks like this. So high on power distance, we like status, hierarchy. Quite individualistic, we do our own thing. Indeed, we don't like risks, that is true. We are quite masculine and we still perform well on indulgence. Use this. Use your local root and embed what you do in your traditions and make it something that is part of your status to achieve in life. And that will make you much more powerful. So, if you think maybe there are some things that are useful, then have a look at other markets and get inspired. This is Norway. What you see is that it's a bit behind the white. TV ad spend increases much more than on average. And if you listen to what happens in the market, all broadcasters decided we sell total TV. So, no linear channels, no digital platforms, no competition in terms of market share. It's just total TV. And that is attractive to advertisers. It's simple, and it's one unified voice. The agencies, they don't come with different forecasts. They have a one forecast. So that is collaboration. The UK. So TV has a legacy in having agreements with the holdcos. There is an interest into these SMEs, but there is a mid-market. ITV, a broadcaster, has built a partnership with the Association of Independent Agencies, so the Indies, and they have a fund to support the mid-market advertisers. Again, collaboration. And then this is a very interesting one. France, as Belgium, scores very high on power distance. They know what to do. The others need to listen. They understand that this attitude may be not so helpful today. Maybe there are other powers that are much more powerful. So they changed a little bit their culture. And they said our inventory needs to be more accessible. We need to partner with others. But still, they keep the bar high. They say there are standards on sustainability, standards on measurement. So they shape their own culture without going too far away from their DNA, but they adapt. And so my question, and I want to keep the conversation with you guys, is what will you do this winter? So happy to hear from you.
More than well.